Coming up on 5 Minute News. US drone kills IS bombers targeting Kabul airport. Biden pays respects to US troops killed in Afghanistan. And Hurricane Ida strikes Louisiana. New Orleans hunkers down. It's Monday, August 30. I'm Anthony Davis. A US drone strike blew up a vehicle carrying multiple suicide bombers from Afghanistan's Islamic State affiliate on Sunday before they could attack the ongoing military evacuation at Kabul's international airport, American officials said. An Afghan official said 3 children were also killed in the strike. The strike came just 2 days before the US is set to conclude a massive 2-week-long airlift of more than 114,000 Afghans and foreigners and withdraw the last of its troops, ending America's longest war with the Taliban back in power. The US State Department released a statement signed by around 100 countries, as well as NATO and the European Union, saying they had received assurances from the Taliban that people with travel documents would still be able to leave the country. The Taliban have said they would allow normal travel after the US withdrawal is completed on Tuesday, and they assume control of the airport. Witnesses to the drone strike said it targeted 2 cars parked in a residential building near the airport, killing and wounding several civilians. Dina Mohammadi said her extended family resided in the building and that several of them were killed, including children. She was not immediately able to provide the names or ages of the deceased. Karim, a district representative, said the strike ignited a fire that made it difficult to rescue people. There was smoke everywhere, and I took some children and women out, he said. Ahmaduddin, a neighbor, said he had collected bodies of children after the strike, which set off more explosions inside the house. Like many Afghans, the 2 men each go by one name. There was no immediate comment from US officials after the reports of civilian casualties surfaced. In hushed reverence, President Joe Biden stood witness with grieving families on Sunday under a grey sky as one by one the remains of 13 US troops killed in the Kabul suicide bombing were removed with solemnity from a military aircraft that brought them home. The only sounds that could be heard during the mournful ritual of the dignified transfer were the quiet commands of the honor guards in battle dress who carried the flag-draped cases, the hum of the C-17 aircraft that had transported the fallen, and the periodic sob of the sorrowful. Biden and his wife Jill met privately with family members of those killed in the suicide attack near the Kabul airport before the president became the 4th commander-in-chief over 2 decades of war to stand at attention at Dover Air Force Base as the remains of the fallen from Afghanistan returned home. The dead ranged in age from 20 to 31 and came from California and Massachusetts and states in between. 5 were just 20, born not long before the attack of September 11, 2001, that spurred the United States to invade Afghanistan in order to topple al-Qaeda and dismantle their Taliban hosts who ruled the country. At their deaths, the 13 young service members were on the ground for the US to coder its longest war, assisting the evacuation of Americans and of Afghans who helped the US war effort, and are now fleeing the Taliban after their return to power. Biden held his hand over his heart and appeared to shut his eyes in prayer as each transfer case was taken off the military aircraft and placed in an awaiting vehicle. Hurricane Ida blasted ashore on Sunday as one of the most powerful storms ever to hit the US, rushing from the Louisiana coast toward New Orleans and one of the nation's most important industrial corridors. The Category 4 storm, with winds of 150 miles an hour, hit on the same date Hurricane Katrina ravaged Louisiana and Mississippi 16 years earlier, coming ashore about 45 miles west of where Category 3 Katrina first struck land. The rising ocean swamped the barrier island of Grand Isle as landfall came just to the west at Port Fourchon. Ida made a second landfall about 2 hours later near Galliano. The hurricane was churning through the far southern Louisiana wetlands, with more than 2 million people living in and around New Orleans, and Baton Rouge up next. People in Louisiana woke up to a monster storm after Ida's top winds grew by 45 miles an hour in 5 hours as the hurricane moved through some of the warmest ocean water in the world in the northern Gulf of Mexico. Wind tore at awnings and water spilled out of lakes in New Orleans before noon on Sunday. Officials said Ida's swift intensification from a few thunderstorms to a massive hurricane in just 3 days left no time to organize a mandatory evacuation of the city's 390,000 residents. Mayor Latoya Cantrell urged residents to leave voluntarily. Those who stayed were warned to prepare for long power outages amid sweltering heat. Ida's 150-mile winds tied it for the 5th strongest hurricane to ever hit the mainland US and provides further evidence of the effect of man-made climate change on an ever-warming planet.
You can subscribe to 5 Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5 Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5 Minute News is an Evergreen Podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.